Coming up on That's a Great Point.
I just think we don't know what we don't know. And it's fascinating to think how much we judge people for things we think they should know.
Hmm.
Mm, I've got it. Yes. Yes, when we know differently, we do differently.
Do you ever feel trapped by what others might think of you? On today's episode of That's a Great Point, we are tackling judgment. As coaches, Alina, Michelle, and I regularly see people stuck, burnout, overwhelmed, or isolated thanks to judgment. In this episode, we answer crucial questions like, how does judgment keep us from trusting others and leave us feeling all alone? Why are we afraid to stand up for ourselves? What drives us to constantly measure ourselves against others? And how do we create a genuine sense of belonging? Whether you feel not enough or better than, we reveal some surprising common origins behind judgment and uncover what is really underneath them. If you're ready to transform your relationships and boost your self-confidence, this episode is for you. As always, if you find our content helpful, please share it with somebody you love. And no, I was not judging Alina's shirt during this episode at all. I promise. Thanks for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show.
I like the podcast look.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So,
The big dong ones?
the big, yes. Yes, they tend to be the bigger ones. The one that you have is the classic smaller one. I don't hear any complaints from Tanya, so
We are starting off well. I like this.
oh my Lord.
Here we go.
This is about
Hey.
equipment and how to be equipped for life.
Yes,
Still-
not better than a good innuendo joke.
What are we still talking about? I know. No, this is this is really like today's topic really is a huge part of being equipped for life. Honing that in. Absolutely.
Tell y'all what, my legs have a pleasant soreness in them right now. I finally got back to squatting. Managed to hurt my knee about a month ago. I took my boy to karate. At the end, we had this thing where we had to jump over some blocks, and they managed to stack the blocks up about 4.5 foot high.
Yeah.
And as soon as I planted my feet and went to go jump, my right knee felt like a knife got stuck in it. And I cleared the blocks, but it's been a month now, and I haven't been able to squat. So I was squatting yesterday, and I was very, very happy about that.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my boy is also in martial arts, and they do jump over blocks.
Mm-hmm.
They have never included, the parents have never been part of that jumping over blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you were invited to or you volunteered to?
It was a special parent-teacher appreciation night. So they do that usually 2-3 times a year. They'll have kids will invite teachers or parents to come and experience it with them. And I continued on whenever I probably should have stopped. I have new limitations now with my increasing age, I guess. Yeah.
That's weird.
It's not.
I'm going to figure out what they are.
It's true.
That is so weird.
We're gonna test these boundaries. We're going to test my limits.
Test them. Hold my beer.
Dear. Oh, dear.
Did you just say that? Did you just say hold my beer?
No, I said, oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah, no, that's pretty much what it did is hold my beer. Watch this.
Yeah, watch this. I'm not like I'm good as I was at 17.
Oh, not as good as I once was, but I'm good once.
As I ever was.
That's right.
That's it.
Funny.
I got one jump in.
That's funny because I watch, a couple times a week. I come and watch him do his thing.
Yeah.
And I said to the instructor last night, one of these days, I'm going to come in and do this with you.
Okay.
I mean, they're doing it at a different level. They're doing it at like the belt right before the black belt level. So that's not where I would be coming in. I'd be coming in at the no belt level.
Right.
But the instructor said to me, it's funny, the instructor used to be in finance. He worked in corporate finance
Oh, cool.
and switched over, and now he has a dojang, where he teaches Taekwondo. And he said, he's like, yes, ma'am, I'll have something for you and you can beat the shit out of it.
Very nice.
I said,
Like a rage room, only not.
Yeah. Well, anger was last week, though. So moving
That's
on.
right. There's no anger allowed. Now we judge the anger.
There you go.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. Michelle, how was your summit over the weekend?
So good. So interesting. They're always different. Yeah. I'm so grateful. Everybody shared things I wouldn't have expect them to share, which is always for me, it just that screams like the safe space, and it happened to be that the group that was there were all they knew each other, like they'd been doing this work together. And so when that happens without any sort of outside, not that it can't, but it's just like it's a different thing because we don't ease into it. It's like we just like dive right in. And I don't know, the weekend just felt really profound and magical and challenging, like super challenging. But like I'm already noticing in conversations with them, with the attendees, where like things have already shifted, where they're surprised, like, oh, I was expecting it to be like this, yeah, yesterday, Monday, and then it wasn't at all like that. And they were surprised by that. And I was like, well, that's what it looks like when you do the work. Everything changes. That like your energy and how you show up is different, and then people respond differently. So cool. It's so cool.
I remember you were telling us about it. It was Friday through Sunday, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
people have a chance to process, sort of, you're together and then you have time apart. And then you come back together the next day and you do that twice. I am wondering what kind of reflections you were hearing from that processing and spending time away from the group.
This is going to sound really weird, but one of the things I love about the weekend things where we're not on site is it gives people a chance to run. Like literally, like they can choose not to come back. And there's always a couple, or at least one, who arrives on Saturday or Sunday and says, I almost didn't come today. I almost bailed. And it's like, I'm really glad you chose yourself, which is it's choose yourself is what we call it. I'm really glad you decided to choose yourself and finish it up. Whatever that looks like going forward, it's okay. It's like, it's on you to decide where you go from here. And when you bail in the middle, it's just like, for me, it feels not safe as a practitioner, even though they get to choose it, and I always follow up if that does happen, but it never has. It's been like, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I almost didn't come. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so the one reflection was, they were having a challenging time in an environment. I'll just say it that way to keep it really vague. And they were going in expecting a confrontation and a conflict and just a really awkward and uncomfortable day. And instead, what they got was smooth sailing. And they were like, I don't even understand what happened. I didn't have a conversation. I didn't change anything. Nothing feels like it was resolved. And yet I entered a room and it was completely different. I'm like, isn't that cool? Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. Sounds like people are moving from head learning into heart body learning.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain that to
It
somebody,
is.
especially if somebody hasn't experienced it. But whenever we move from head to heart to body, it's a completely different experience. We start showing up different. We feel different about the world that works. It's pretty beautiful. You also said very early on that y'all dove in quickly. So that ties in perfectly to the topic today, judgment.
Yeah.
How we fear sharing our deepest parts of ourselves out of fear of judgment.
Yeah. That's true.
And go.
And go.
You see me taking a breath.
You, Alina?
Well, yeah, I was. Wait, which one? Which one?
Well,
Yeah,
you just said you see me taking a breath. I'm like, I want to explore that. What do you mean? Say more.
I thought you guys saw me taking a breath to say something, and Lee said. I thought Lee said to me, "All right, go." I was thinking about this in the shower this morning. When we say judgment, there are a number of ways to think about it. And the first way to judge the word judgment is that it's a negative. And of course, it can be so negative. But judgment can be discernment. It can simply be discernment, knowing what's for you, knowing what's not for you, what to say yes to, what to say no to, what's dangerous, what's safe, right? So there's the positive aspect of judgment is it's that discernment, intuition, which is how we keep living physically safe and psychologically safe. And then there's the popular side of judgment, which is, criticizing, having bias. And again, bias can have bias. It's all there to keep us safe, right? We all have it on an evolutionary basis. For self-preservation, we need that judgment.
Hmm?
It's what do we do with it? What does it cost us when we're misusing it? I love this topic.
The definition of judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. But the way most of us use judgment, it's not very sensible. It's like this wounded middle school perspective of judgment. Like, I'm going to be judged and I won't be liked. I won't be respected. I won't be admired. I won't be accepted. And that's the part I want to talk about. I tell you what.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I want to hear more.
Oh, you want to hear more? All
I
right.
do.
A lot coming up for me in that thinking about how many years of my life I spent judging others and being in a better than place. Like, I'm exceptional, I'm superior. But after starting to dig into it after years and years of doing the work, I realized that came from a sense of insecurity. I needed to feel like I was better than everybody else because I really didn't feel like I was everybody else, better than anybody, right? And really, really diving into it, where that was birthed from was, I've mentioned many times about how I was neglected and abandoned so much from my mom. I don't have a hard time even talking about it because I'm starting to go there already. I wanted so bad to help her. And I was so powerless in that situation to help her and her alcoholism. And it breeded this sense of I'm not enough to be able to help. I'm not enough. I'm helpless. I can't do anything about it. So then from that point forward, I had to do what I had to do to try and make myself feel better about me. And it was all birthed from that sense of powerlessness. It birthed an insecurity in me that then caused me to judge everybody else. But it was all about me. Nobody ever met my expectations.
Well, and isn't that interesting? When we set our expectations so high that nobody can ever meet them, there we sit alone, which feels safer than opening up to the possibility of more pain, more neglect, more, abandonment, more hurt.
Oh, absolutely. And that's with the kind of trauma that Lee experienced. Even without that, with a childhood where one felt generally loved and safe, it's a scary place to go to put oneself out there, be seen, and then risk not being enough, being judged, like discovering that you were never good enough. It was all an illusion. Like I talked to a client of mine was a CEO for 30 years. 30 years. This man has had an incredible career. We're in a conversation last week, and his concern still, after all the success and validation and affirmation, is what are they going to think of me if I announce on LinkedIn that I'm looking for a new role? Because up until now, he's been approached quietly, right, by his network, people who know him and trust him, call him up, and that's how the positions have come to be, from his reputation that he built, right? He built with all the work that he's put in, blood, sweat, and tears, and trust. So now they would call him up. Now, for the first time in his career, they're not calling him up. And the simple act of putting on, or, that little green ring around the window on LinkedIn that says open to work, or making an announcement on LinkedIn publicly, makes him so incredibly uncomfortable and scared that he too will be judged, that he can't just get a job the way he always has, that there's desperation. And he has grown daughters. One of them's going to have a wedding soon, and he's scared. He's scared he won't be able to pay. He's scared he won't be able to tell. He's scared to tell his family so that he's not seen the way he's always been seen. Right? Successful, strong provider. He provides for his family. He provides for his extended family too. And now all of a sudden this provider is weak, right? And that's this fear of judgment. It's incredible. And so that's without the trauma, that kind of trauma. It's stunning. And I don't know who's immune.
Mm-mm. No, a lot of it's birthed from trying to find ourselves and trying to find our place. I mentioned middle school already. A lot of it starts in elementary, middle school, and into high school, because some of the most judgmental people on the planet Earth are adolescents and teenagers. Like, whoa, it's man.
God.
And we manage to carry that along with us as we start to grow into adults, and come to find out later on in life, everybody is the star in their own movie, and they're always thinking about me and far less about everybody else and what's going on with them. So as you start to get older, it becomes you know what? They're not actually thinking about me anyway. So, oh well, let them have their thoughts.
That's right. It was never about you. And middle school is, I mean, I've told both my kids, like, it's the worst years of your education for sure. The meanest, judgiest, clickiest, yuckiest years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of points to, maybe it does point to, when we know ourselves the least, or when we're exploring who we are or who we might want to be, that's when we judge the most, because I feel like it's always the comparison game. It's like, stand next to someone else and see if you measure up, and it's like that expectations breed judgment on some level. I mean, that just came out. I don't know if it's actually true, but it just feels like expectations tend to be the why of the judgment. And I think fear can make it ugly, or, and if the fear is quieter and we have a little more, wisdom built up, then it can not be so fear-based, and it can be more heartfelt of, a pure, quote unquote, pure judgment of, viewing, observing with accuracy, versus like just looking for a reason to beat yourself up. It's like I kept hearing "what if" when you guys were talking, and "what if" is one of those phrases where it's like, it can be, what if I fail? What if I something bad? What if they something bad? And it can be what if, and then dream it up. What if we are playful, or just even being inquisitive with the what if, an actual question that is leading you somewhere versus a question that just like takes you down into the abyss of dismal despair that you're never going to be successful or loved or, seen accurately or any of that stuff. It's fascinating how we tick. And junior high, I don't think we know how to tick. So it just gets ugly.
So ugly. But that's right. Judgment is this flashlight almost that we could point. There's a whole world out there. To your point, Michelle, I love that. It's if you just point it up, there's a whole world of possibility. What if it's better than I ever imagined? What if it works out? What if it does? And if it doesn't work out, what if it doesn't work out a little? What if it redirects me? Yeah, I love that. I love that.
All the what ifs are just the stories that we're telling ourselves. And our imagination is freaking powerful, and it can tell some of the most unbelievable stories. And I'll give you a perfect example of it without sharing too much of Tanya's story. She's having a rough moment the other day, and she told me so. And I said, good. And that was the end of the conversation at that moment. She approached me a couple of days later, telling me what that good meant to her. It's like, yeah, it's good. You like to see me suffering. That's the story she started telling herself, that I wanted to see her suffer. But what I actually meant was good. You're going through a low moment. Now, whenever you figure out how to come out of it, you're going to have a better opportunity to empathize with our kids, with your kids at school as a school counselor, and to be able to better help them because of the learnings you're going to take from your own struggles. That's what good actually meant whenever I said it. But because I didn't expand on it, she immediately started telling herself stories that were completely out of whack with what I meant. And many times we interpret things with a story, and we use our imagination to tell ourselves a story about what's coming from the other person that may or may not be true.
Oh, it's what we do. We're story making machines.
Mm-hmm.
So Doc Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen, he studies the brain, and he's pretty prolific, and he's been scanning the brain and learning about it and talking about it a lot. He talks about an ant infestation, ANT, automatic negative thoughts. I don't know if he created it or popularized the term, but the idea is that all day long we have these ants running through our mind, automatic negative thoughts, and they're usually not true. So kind of grounding and recognizing that, yep, humans have ants. Sometimes humans have ant infestations, and it's not true. And the idea of moving on. And that's part of the protocol that he talks about in dealing with depression or anxiety. Like recognizing that there are ants, they're part of life, and we can just note them, acknowledge that they're not true, right? Accept them and keep moving. We don't need to believe every terrible thing that we think of.
Mm-hmm.
Then we wouldn't leave the house. Like everything can go wrong in theory, right? And we have science fiction movies and horror movies created. Like your imagination, you could just sit home and write all day, write stories all day. Like, don't go see your kids' soccer practice. Like, don't go to work. Don't brush your teeth.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of belonging when we talk about judgment, and that the belonging has to start with us. Like we have to feel like we belong. And I went through a recent, my son went to do a karate demonstration, and we ended up in this place that was heavily infested with rednecks, and they're in their cowboy boots and belt buckles and full-on hunting gear, and I'm in shorts, flip-flops, and a cutoff t-shirt. And the story that I told myself is, I'm too different. I don't belong here. And as soon as that thought came into my head, I went, oh, wait, no. No, I'm good with me. I'm okay with me. I do belong here. I'm different, but I belong. And as soon as I had that thought, then I started to go out in the crowd and have conversations with people. When normally in the past, I would have hidden off in a corner and waited for people to come to me because I was so afraid of their judgment and what they were thinking of me, and needed to be better then, right? So it's a pretty significant difference in thinking. And it's the thinking that the thoughts never went away, right? They were still there, those automatic negative thoughts. It was, I don't belong here. It still popped in, but I was aware of it. And then whenever I was aware of it, then I chose to think differently.
Beautiful. Isn't that what it's about? Having a new tool in your toolbox, or sharpening the tool that's always been there. It's fantastic, right? In the moment, you caught yourself, you turned it,
Mm-hmm.
and you made a decision that you belong, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Well, I love the idea, because if I reflect back to before I really started, I'm going to just say taking care of myself, right? Mind, body, and spirit. I think 95% of my thoughts were negative thoughts and worries and anxiety and like pressure on myself, judgments, right? On myself and others, full disclosure, right? Of course, if it's going on internally, it's going on externally. And then over time, as I've done the work, it's like, I don't have as many ants. Like I've built the skills to train my brain, so to speak, to not be an asshole all the time. And so, maybe, and I'm in it. I'm actually, this weekend helped me bounce out of like the rock bottom, to bounce out of, like, I know I'm bouncing out of my wound and the things I've been working on recently that just had me like, life is hard right now in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I went back up in my percentage when I was in that place. It's like I was super tender, back into the tendency of having negative thoughts, back into the tendency of beating myself up, of wondering why I'm feeling this way when I haven't felt this way in so long. And it's like I feel like I turned a corner again. And now it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, they exist, they pop in. I think to get to never having them is an unrealistic expectation. And so I love that you're like, yeah, they exist. They're happening. They're going to happen. And do they have to happen 95% of the time? Can you do some work within and without? And for me, the work without was really seeing who I was spending time with, and maybe definitely making some shifts there. How much time, if there was any time, and then seeking out people who didn't live in that negative space all the time. Like, that's exhausting.
What I appreciate about that is, as you're talking, I keep thinking about how much judgment of within causes judgment of without.
Mm-hmm.
Within, without. Cruelty to ourselves makes us cruel to others. I am not enough, mirroring to you are not enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't belong. I'm going to seek others who don't belong and shame them for it. So that's such an important part of who you're surrounding yourself with, as a reflection of how you're treating yourself. And as you up level how kind you are to yourself and how much grace you show yourself and acknowledge your own humanity, it's likely to result in up leveling our surroundings and who we associate with. I mean, look at this conversation. Who are we in the room with? Very different kinds of people. I bet the three of us are as different as can be. We come from such different places. And I bet you the people that we hung out with when we were kids were not like this. They were judgier. They were meaner. They weren't, right? Like, or if friends that you had in your 20s, right? Very, very different. So that's the reflection.
Yeah.
As you treat you, you surround yourself with people who correspond with that vision.
It's hard to have that self-reflection, especially whenever you're looking at it from the kind of a tough guy perspective. I'm going to be tough. Therefore, I'm not going to allow myself to see my own weaknesses, my own insecurities. But even they're still there though, and they're projected onto others.
Of course.
And Yeah, that's a huge piece. And whenever we find ourselves judging others, it's definitely time to pull that mirror up and take a look at us.
Always a mirror, always that's always a question, right? When we feel, we talked about, anger, rage, it's like there's something here. We
Hmm.
talked about judgment. There's something here. There's that mirror over and over again. And when you talk about, Mr. Tough Guy,
Hmm.
right? And like men sometimes who don't want to show that vulnerability and they feel like they need to be the tough guy and play that role. I mean, there are women, I don't know anyone in particular, but speaking for a theoretical friend, who are like, I can do it all by myself. I'm
Hmm.
tough, tough as nails, right? That's a saying about, right? I've heard that said more often about women than men. She's tough as nails. She can handle anything. She's the toughest woman I know. Well, maybe she doesn't want to be. She didn't ask to be. She wasn't born that way. She didn't choose this. She was made to make these decisions that she wished she probably didn't have to, but she had no choice. And so she did. And same thing with, Mr. Tough Guy. It's like that's the position he was put in. And so he did to survive. Is that what he wants? There's still a squishy human inside, Mr. Tough Guy and Miss Tough as Nails.
In my experience, tough equals brittle.
Bellissimo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that tough facade, that tough exterior, I'm wherever it's coming from. I'm entitled to have better. I am better, or I am worse than, or everything. Oh man. It absolutely can ruin the opportunity to have deep, meaningful relationships. It's a barrier between ourselves and others. And I guarantee you, if it wasn't for my wife and my kids and me wanting to be a better person for them and to have those deep, meaningful relationships with them, I'd probably still be stuck in those boxes. But having three daughters has forced me to take some deep, hard looks at myself because I didn't want that for them. I didn't want them to have the kind of trauma that I grew up. I wanted them to be able to be themselves and messy, greatest version of themselves, all of it. I wanted them to be safe in having their own experience. And that required me to be safe in my own experience.
I feel like I want to celebrate that you made that choice because I don't believe you were forced. I believe you chose it. Like you were
Oh, yeah,
invited to,
definitely.
because so many people don't choose that. And I'm not, that's not a guilt shame thing. It's just like they don't have the capacity to, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the resources to. Like if you don't know what you don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, somehow along the way, you found what you needed to be able to choose that, to go to that place. Because I think so many people get judged and they didn't know. Like they didn't know, they didn't have the resources, they didn't even understand it was a possibility. I mean, like I was just talking about this with a friend I mean, it was after the summit, but we were talking about like I just didn't know that in my house it was anxiety and worry about everything. I just thought that was normal. I didn't know that was a normal way to think. That was what we did. Everybody, literally everybody that I knew, and maybe not everybody, but like that was just the environment and the people, friends, family, everyone that I knew. There were a handful that didn't, and I was just like, oh well, they got their shit together. I don't know how they don't worry. They're weird. You know what I mean? There's a judgment, but it's like this weird. I just think we don't know what we don't know. And it's fascinating to think how much we judge people for things we think they should know.
Hmm.
Mm, you, I've got it. Yes. So yes, when we know differently, we do differently. And that's it. Like that's just our world. But I've got to tell you, when my family and I came to America, and I started to have American friends, I also like I added layers of my own imagination and projection of what an American family's like in contrast to what my experience was. So like I come from Eastern Europe, a lot of hand gestures, a lot of animation, there's a lot of judgment in society, like it's so high. Like I will tell you how to live, I'll prescribe everything to you. You're like, "You stupid American, you don't understand." And it's like, this is what you do, this is how you live, and that's it. And very, very passionate discussions. And I imagine that in America, American families have very civilized conversations and, they let each other finish speaking calmly and they are curious about each other's differing opinions. And I idolized the idea of what an American family is like. And I wanted to one day have that. And I wanted to project with like, oh, this Americans have it together. You know, Americans is very like, I want to have a dinner where people are using their like cutlery and speaking, and there's just no tension. It's just so nice. Must be so nice.
What lofty ideals you have.
Right? I imagine like, oh, I want my kids to grow up in like, I was like, no, that's so civilized. No one is mean. No, I'm not, my family wasn't mean. It's just animated. It's intense. They don't, there's no small talk. There's no polite conversation. There's just, we're going to sit down and get into it. And if things are ugly, we're going to jump into the ugly. We're not like, there's no like coddling and introducing it or checking in with how someone's feeling. It's like, this is what's on my mind. You're going to hear it immediately.
Mm.
That's such a great representation. And maybe this has nothing to do with judgment, but about like the grass is greener on the other side. Like we tell ourselves it's going to look a certain kind of way. And as I get the truth is like, you have to create it no matter where you are. Like it doesn't just happen.
That's right. It's not like American families are, I mean, it's a microcosm of the entire world, of all the cultures. We don't have, they're humans and they snap at each other and judge each other and just like any other country. But I imagine this, like, right? This, oh, everyone
So I have a question. So you had that imagination, you had that vision in your head of what it would be like when you came here and that you wanted that for yourself. So then when you realized that we're human too and it doesn't work that way, did you judge yourself for not like, you know what I mean? Because like sometimes we internalize, like we blanketly assume, and then when we don't create that, before we really realize the whole picture that like we're not that different, did you find yourself beating yourself up about like, well, gosh, why isn't this working? I'm here.
Sure. I mean, sure. I saw other people's families and then I realized like, oh, what you see from the surface is not really what's actually happening most of the time, right? Like people are also more polite when they know that when there's company, right? They don't get into the nitty gritty ugly at family dinners when you have guests. That's the other realization I had. And yeah, I thought, I definitely had first, I had a realization. I didn't judge myself for, it's like, oh, okay. So they have their own shit too. Got it. So shit's just ubiquitous and it's just human. Okay. But then I went into judgment of why haven't I been able to create that in my own home? Like the civilized, always graceful, always kind, always like roomy and spacious. And to this day, I'm trying to curate like this environment at my family dinners of, like, let's talk about how everybody's doing and feeling and let's honor everybody's space. And I continue to try, by the way. I'm acknowledging my intention and effort and action more than beating the shit out of myself these days.
Have you ever thought about the deeper want behind that desire to have the civilized, polite conversations?
Sure. Oh, by the way, when I say polite, I don't mean polite on surface with the real shit brewing underneath. That's not what I mean. I mean kind.
Yeah.
Like psychologically safe and so it's gotten it's safe most of the time. What's behind that? I mean, love, wanting to really take advantage of the time that we have of this moment to really make the most of this moment and live in the moment and be with each other as humanity and really see each other for what we are and what's here, instead of holding on to what's happened and what's been and who we've been and who's hurt who and how and in what manner on the banks of what river. Because sure, all those things happened, and here we are today. So my push is always, we're here today, and today is where we have the power. We don't have the power in yesterday. That's what's behind it. I love my people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
What else is brewing up around judgment?
we need it.
I think
We need
it's
it.
yeah, I think it's almost like a clue book.
Say again?
It's like a clue book.
Clue book. Mm.
Yeah. If we really observe our judgments and even how we're judged and why that matters to us, that is absolutely without a doubt a clue book. Tells you a lot. There's a lot of information in those aha moments when you choose to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It points to many things. Many, 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 many things.
Yeah. Just like anger,
Yeah.
always something underneath judgment.
Always. Every time, no exception.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. I feel like going into the 3.
Sure.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Do
Well,
it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Well, then I'm going to do it. Well, let's talk about judgment. Eh? When we talk about judgment, we often focus on the negative. Like, you're so judgy. But judgment can mean a number of things, right? So, first and foremost, let's define what it can be. There are different faces of it. So, judgment can mean discernment. That's the positive, can be a big positive. Knowing what is for you, what to say yes to, and knowing what to say no to, what's not for you. Knowing what's safe and knowing what's dangerous. That discernment is critical. How we use it is really important. Judgment can certainly be intuition, your instinct, that little voice that tells you that even though what you're reading in the news is X, or even though your friends are telling you Y, even though data in your company points to Z, there's an intuition that tells you something else is here and it's missing. It's really important to listen to that intuition. That judgment is there. Hone it. Don't ignore it. Really expensive when one does. And then there's the negative of judgment. That's the bias. That's the criticism. Now, all of these, the discernment, the bias, the intuition, the criticism, they're all there to protect us. We've evolved as human beings over time, and we've needed to have these traits embedded in our brains for the sake of self-preservation. Now, that's really important. So when we're in judgment, noticing and just observing, which one of these am I in right now? What is this? Another item about judgment is judgment within often causes judgment without. So if we are finding ourselves in that negative judgment of others and being highly critical and irritated with them and just snapping to conclusions, chances are we're noticing something in them that we don't like about ourselves, that we don't want to see in ourselves. So yes, it is very much a reflection of something else happening. A mirror. Just like anger, there's usually something else there, and it usually starts with us, inside of us. That's another really important item. As it is within, it is without. And the third item, and there's always so much more to say than three, is judgment is incredibly important in leadership. How often a leader does not have all of the facts, all of the data, and they need to make a decision fast. They need to be with what's here and now and what's available in the moment. And it's applicable to a leader in a corporate setting, and it's applicable to you, your own leader, whoever you are, whatever role you serve, you lead you first and foremost. So honing in your inner instrument to discern, to be able to make that call in the moment when you don't have what you need, what you wish you had. Maybe you actually have what you need, to rethink that. And then a reflection that I would pose to anyone watching or listening is notice when you're in judgment and reflect on whether it's protecting you or whether it's harming you, limiting you. Curious what people think about when they reflect on it.
Judgment. It's possible the simplest of perspective shifts could change your life when it comes to judgment. And I say simplest of perspective shifts, but it's not an easy thing to do. Consider that when others are judging you, it is not about you. And that can lead to a kind and compassionate conversation. They're showing you something about them. They're showing you something they need, or maybe it's not about that, but it's not about you. Much like when you are judging others, it is absolutely not about them. So consider both of those things and see how that feels. And perhaps it leads to some grace, both for you and for them. Perhaps it leads to conversations that actually are meaningful and take you somewhere. 2, judgment, like I said before, can be a clue book. It teaches you things. Where are you judging others? And then look at the expectations you have of yourself. Look at how you're feeling about yourself. As others are judging you, what does that bring up for you? Are you neutral and it doesn't affect you? Or is it taking you to a place where you're like, whoa, I haven't been here in a while. What's this about? It's all being inquisitive in those moments can be a magical way to shift how you operate and how you tick in the world. And I think if we get really honest, none of us want to live in the negative side of judgment. It's kind of one of those ways. It's an easy way or a learned way to unlock things for ourselves, or to point to something. And until we kind of bring an awareness to it, there's nothing we can do to change it. There has to be an awareness there. And then my third piece on judgment is one of those weird ones where I keep seeing the whole time we're talking, I keep seeing there's a judgment card in a tarot deck. It's the Lightseer's Tarot by Chris Ann. And the art on this card is incredible. It's a human, it's a woman standing. And then outside of her, coming out of her, there's this silhouette of light. And that card is about you've judged yourself and you've judged others. And now you've come to a place where you're done hiding and you're going to reveal yourself, your true self to the world. So it's about like the judge has come in and everything is like in order. The law, there's balance, right? And you show up in a way where you're you. And that's a different kind of thing. And so when we get to the place where judgment becomes the positive aspect of it, we're no longer hiding. I'm not saying never. I understand that that's not how this works, but we are willing to reveal ourselves and to stand up and show up in literally in our light, in who we really are. And when we do that, it's almost like the light dissolves what comes at us. I don't even like bouncing it off because that implies that it's like we're throwing rocks right back at each other, right? It's like not that. It's like, no, this like transforms it, it transmutes it, it returns it for the best and highest good. And we get to be in this space of love. And I think when we can get to anything in a place of kindness and compassion and love, rock on. The judgment dissolves. You can't hold space of judgment in love. So consider the clues in judgment. They're many and they're deep and they're layered. That's my 3.
Beautiful. Fantastic. All right. So my three for judgment. Up first is the healthy expression of judgment. Judgment is an objective assessment of our situation. We have to look at the stories we tell ourselves whenever we assess data, because many times those stories can get out of control and send us off into places that aren't necessarily the truth. And what we need in these situations is actually the truth. When we look at the truth of things, it allows us to find the people we're meant to be with and to be less with the people we're not supposed to be with, because we're objectively looking at who do I want to be and who do I want to be with and who do I want to allow into my world. So the objective assessment is not based in insecurity. It's not based in self-distrust, self-dislove. It's based in objective measurements, and it absolutely can keep us safe in many situations. Point number two, what most of us think of as judgment is the unhealthy expression of judgment, and that whenever we have an unhealthy expression of judgment, we're typically going to be stuck in one of four boxes. And I've pulled these boxes directly from the Anatomy of Peace book, as the better than box, the worse than box, the I need to be seen as box, or the I deserve box. And all of these boxes exist whenever we are not at peace with ourselves. If we want to escape these boxes and remove judgment's power over us, we have to be at peace with ourselves. And that starts with getting really, really clear on who we are and self acceptance and self love, trauma healing work if it's necessary, especially in my own personal case, right? So these unhealthy expressions, these boxes, are just a way to keep us at war with other people in our relationships. And we want to have truly healthy relationships. We have to first start with being at peace with ourselves. And point number three, I'm going to use a story to illustrate this point. Many times our judgment can give us the exact outcome that we're seeking to avoid. I'm pulling this story from the book Lessons for Living with Phil Stutz. There was a woman who grew up in a trailer park, and she was absolutely gorgeous. And she managed to escape her poverty with her looks. She became a model, traveled the world, made buku money modeling. But she still didn't feel like she deserved it because she was born with those looks, right? So she had a deep insecurity of I'm not enough. I'm just lucky. I don't deserve this. And whenever she had kids, she entered those kids into private school because she wanted her kids to escape her own insecurities, to escape and to be okay with themselves and everything. And she thought the way to do that was to give them the best education possible. And this woman ended up feeling like she wasn't enough, and the other mothers that were at the school, she felt judgment from them, and that judgment from them kept her from engaging with these other mothers. And the story she kept telling herself was, "I'm not enough. I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I don't deserve this. This is too good for me. I'm trailer park trash." And then after a while, with working with a therapist, she ended up having some conversations with these mothers later on. The story that the mothers were telling themselves about her was she was aloof and she was the one that was better than. So the judgment that she had that I'm not good enough kept her from having those relationships with the other people in that group. And as soon as she was able to let that relax and go have those conversations, they ended up becoming friends. But she didn't have the friends previously because she didn't feel like she was enough. And so did the other people. They didn't feel like they were enough because they weren't nearly as pretty as her. So when we judge others, we can absolutely get the results that we're trying to avoid. just through that judgment. And with that, I am complete.
Beautiful. I judge this to be a beautiful conversation.
Lovely. That's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a good spot to wrap up. Serene.
Mm-hmm.
Did a little bit of research. I wanted to share this story too. I was doing some research, and I forget the guy's name. Something Guru, it was an Indian fella, and he was having a conversation with some young kids, and I say kids, college age kids, and one of the ladies says, "Yeah, my friend, she got absolutely hammered," and she says, "Well, don't judge me for being too drunk," and the guy said, "Yeah, coming from somebody who's in a place of poor judgment, that's kind of funny."
Yeah. The irony.
When our own judgment is skewed, other people's judgment means more to us.
Absolutely. Every time. Damn it. Isn't it so inconvenient? It keeps pointing to us.
I know, right?
It's always about you. Always.
Always,
It's like
you.
always
It's
about
not me,
yourself.
right?
Always about yourself.
It's not me, it's you, babe.
The number of times I've said that. when the aha moment happens and they realize it's about themselves, you're just like, it's always the case.
Right? Like you have way more agency than you initially think you do. Right?
And the greatest part about it, whenever we realize it's all about us, is we start to realize that we're not alone in that.
Yeah.
So no need to judge ourselves.
Because we're in great company.
Right?
Yeah. Funny, like the workshop, I'm going to be running I'm going to be doing a lecture and run a small workshop at Berkeley Haas in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the exercise that we do every time is the curiosity lens. So you literally install, it's the exercise to install a lens of curiosity and replace it, right? You're replacing whatever lens you had in, right? You put that down and you install the lens of curiosity and through a series of like deepening inquiries because, and that's what we talk about, curiosity takes up space and it takes away space from something else. And that something else is usually judgment and preconceived notions. And so putting that on, that alone gets people to, at the end of that deepening, sort of descend into the truth, into this really deep inquiry. There's usually ahas and realizations. That's cool.
Yeah, I love the idea of that. The better we get at asking questions that have no answers, the further we get, the closer we get to the truth. Because many times whenever we find that first answer, we'll stop there. But there's always going to be deeper levels of answers to any really, really well asked question. So if we develop the power to stay with the question and develop the question in a way that allows us to dig deeper and deeper, not just settle on that first answer, holy shit, we can come up with some deep level understanding for so many situations.
Absolutely.
So, all right, that's what we'll leave you with. Ponder them questions, Shy. Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.